Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating the Curve. Now, I've got the hot topic of the century on at the moment. We're talking about AI today, and we have the wonderful Frank Prendergast. Although on your LinkedIn, what is it, Frank Prendergast, Frank Pretendergast? All the different pronunciations. The best
I
use
thought
the voice note of your name that I've ever seen, and I listen to it regularly just to make me laugh.
I'd actually forgotten about that. Yeah, that was at I think that was our friend John Aspirian. I jokingly said that I would love to use it like that, and John was like, "Do it, put it up." So I took the challenge. I put it up, and then I kind of forgot about it actually.
No,
So,
I still remember it. This is the thing. Isn't it funny how we do stuff that, like, to us is quite simple, but people that follow you remember these funny things about you. Being part of Frank's Moustache Club. If anyone wondering why, I had some photos of me with a fake moustache and nose on, and sadly I lost them at one of the meetings with Frank, and he kindly sent me a pack of 10 so that I never have to go moustache free again. So, Frank,
I
tell
hope
us. Oh, yeah,
I
I've
hope
got my
you were wearing your
moustache with
moustache
me
at
I
Uplift Live, were
know.
you?
I wasn't, and yeah, I haven't got it on with me today. I wore it at Creator Day last year, but yeah, I should have worn it because I'm going to share the video version of this as well. I should have worn my moustache, and we could have had a moustache or is
Yeah,
it
yeah,
moustacherati um, group sort of
fantastic.
reunion. Anyone that's on podcast, everyone that's podcast, I'll just tell you that I'm wearing the moustache, and you'll never know.
Yeah.
So Frank and I, you can probably tell, we've known each other for quite a while. And I absolutely love because Frank, I have his newsletter and he talks loads about AI, and I'm really big into AI. I think I did my first talk on AI in about 8, 9 years ago, and it was before Chat GPTs came out. And mine was, I know this is a terrible title, son. It was called AI Doesn't Have to Be Exciting. and, and it was about um, just looking at automation and processes. So I used the example of things like Ocado's system where it works out, what weather it is. If it's hot weather, maybe people might want more barbecue food, etc. Works out your patterns and how you order. And I talked about like that very it's sort of boring side of it, but the useful side, people that didn't know it existed. But now it's become, sexy, sexy AI, and it's not all about the processes. We've got these wonderful chat systems. So, Frank, tell everyone about you and sort of how you got into AI as well, because you've really embraced
Sure.
it.
Yeah, so like so my background is marketing, digital marketing, web design, that kind of area. I work with my wife Marcy, and our whole thing is we help small businesses to rise above the blah, and we do it with like conversion copywriting, content marketing, um, yeah, that kind of area. And so it's a good life. We love it. But there's the problem is AI is coming for our job. Um, so Sam Altman had a famous quote that AI is going to be able to do like 95% of what myself and Marcy do quickly and cheaply. And he says it's going to happen. When he said it, he said within 5 years. That was about 2 years ago. So we're looking at like, he reckons it's going to be 2 to 3 years and AI is going to be able to do what myself and Marcy do.
Mm.
So, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, well, is this true? Is our number going to be up in a couple of years? And so I've taken it upon myself to figure out, well, like, where are we now? What's coming down the line? What can AI do? And also, like, where are the very human gaps that the human is still needed, so that I can figure out, like, where we need to be positioning ourselves. And also, I don't want to be completely blindsided
Mm.
if it does turn out Sam Altman is right, and because he's not the only one saying it. Like all of the leaders in AI development now, as you and I know, there's a lot of hype around AI, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But they do believe that artificial general intelligence is coming, and that it will be able to do our level of work. And the way I look at it is, it may happen, it may not. but some of the smartest people in the world are working tirelessly to make this happen. So we should at least be preparing for, well, what if they're right? What if they pull it off? So that's how I got into AI, basically looking at how do I protect my job? How do I pivot slightly to provide value where AI can't, and to know what's coming down the line at us.
Absolutely. I'm exactly the same. I am I tend to think of myself more as a futurist, looking at what's coming, down that line, because it might come from my business analysis background because I spent my life doing a lot of sort of SWOT and petal analysis. I'm currently teaching sort of petal Porter Spice forces. Looking at the world around you, from what's happening, not just our industry, but from a sort of macro level of the world, because these things affect us. And the problem is, if we put our heads in the sand, it can be quite difficult, can't it? I remember that there's been quite a few of these. Even back to when I was young and computers were taking over, and people were quite scared. I remember in my A levels, we weren't allowed to write our essays on computers because they thought that using Word was cheating because it did the spelling for us. And yet it's expected now. And even things like
Yeah.
I do a lot of art and drawing, and in the digital industry, people hated it when people started drawing digitally, whether it's your Illustrator, Procreate. They were like, well, it's cheating, you can't do that. Yet, people are still using their own creative skills to create something. And it seems like these changes are happening all the time. And it's weird because there is all this initial change, isn't there? This sort of big thing where everyone kind of moves towards a new thing, but then it kind of settles down. I follow lots of painters and creators. People still want art, you know just because people did it digitally, they don't want, not want painted art, or other sort of like pottery, etc. People still want it. So do you think like there's this sort of panic of wave that's coming at the moment that is going to start settling down?
I think I think I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Mm,
And I mean, I think it's just a crazy time to be alive, because I do think that if if these AI leaders are correct, like we're on the cusp of like such huge upheaval, and I
mm,
don't think it's going to be easy. And I think um, there's going to be a lot of societal and like structural things that we really have to rethink about our capitalist societies, basically. But I don't know how like philosophical we want to get here, but I would say that I would hope that it will always come back to, we will always value the human effort that went into something.
mm,
So I know that in the creative spheres, there is a lot of resistance to AI, and I understand it. And I think there's huge ethical questions that we still haven't answered
mm,
several years on from trying to answer the questions. Um, but at the end of the day, so, your job is one thing, and then creativity is another thing. So I use Suno to generate music, to do things like put in the background of little short videos that I'm doing for social media, for example. And it creates amazing music. And it actually creates music quite similar to some of the music that I might listen to normally. But like when my work day is done, I'm not generating music on Suno and sitting down and listening to that. No, I'm
yeah.
going back to the artists that I have an emotional connection to. I'm putting on Nick Cave. I'm putting on Tom Waits. I'm putting on Bob Dylan, or I'm putting on The Knife, which I've had fun prompting Suno to create music that would be kind of in the same vein as The Knife, and it does an incredible job. But that's not what I want to listen to. I want to listen to the artists that I saw on stage doing an amazing job. I want those memories, what I love about them. So I hope that that will always be the case. And you know, in the best possible scenario, maybe AI takes over the capitalist layer of society, but
Mm.
that we structure society in a way that people are looked after, and we get to create and we get to share our creations with each other, and we just don't have to worry about the economic strata of society. you know,
It's
that
a
would be
really
fun.
yeah, it's really interesting. It feels very Star Trek like. in that sort of with the pursuit of building, the society and people doing, interesting things. Interestingly, the Creating the Curve theme is designed in Suno. So
Okay.
I couldn't
Yeah.
find the music that I wanted. I had a very specific, it was very specific in my head, and I trawled hours through royalty-free music trying to find what I wanted, and I couldn't get it out of my head what I wanted. And although I used I feel like a lot of, I know that people say, oh, AI is cheating. I felt like a lot of blood, sweat, and tears actually went into creating my theme. Different prompting. Maybe this is the thing, it's different creativity. Some people are very creative with, you know, creating art and writing. Actually, creative prompting and getting what you want out of AI, I've found a challenge and actually a skill set in its own. And it's really interesting. There's this new skill set because actually I've seen people use AI who can't prompt very well, and what comes out is not spectacular. Whereas the
Mm.
more that I put in and the more that I craft with it, the better stuff comes out. So there's, I think, this people that say there's no effort going in, I think that's, they haven't got the idea of AI and how it actually works and how we need to sort of mold it to how we
Yeah.
want it. Because it took me a good day or so to get this song out that I wanted, but I just felt like I'd created it because it had my words in it, it had my the sort of tune that I wanted it. And I can't create a song, I'm not very good at it, but it kind of was that extra helping hand. It was like a ghost writer for my song.
Yeah, I mean, so when I was a kid, all I wanted to be was an artist. So I was just always found scribbling crayons, painting everything, and all I wanted to do, like I hated school, and I just wanted to go to art college. The only time I was ever in school at 9 o'clock in the morning was when art class was first thing in the day. But I went to art college, and what I found was I crave immediacy.
Mm.
So I loved photography. I loved taking photographs. I loved the results. I hated spending time in the darkroom. I loved the look of screen prints, so I wanted to learn how to do it. Hated the laborious process of creating a screen print. So I never really found my medium, and I ended up doing a lot of like really quick scribbled cartoons, and that was how I kind of expressed my ideas because it was immediate. I just grab a
Yeah.
pen, scribble it down. So for me, AI image generators, I just love them because I can have my idea and I can execute it in seconds, whether it's a screen print look I want, whether it's a photography look I want, whether it's a sketch look I want, and I still value, the fact that I can draw or the fact that I can go and create something. But just for me, that ability to have the creative part and the immediacy, I still think it's creative.
Mm. I know, and I agree with you. And I have ADHD, so I really crave the immediacy too. I struggle. I do a lot of craft. Like you said, it doesn't stop me doing crafts. I do crochet and things like that that take hours, and I do still enjoy them. But sometimes I
Yeah.
need that that sort of hit of something done quickly. I own my own business, and I work for other people, and I'm quite short on time. So sometimes for my own health I need something done quickly. There's a big talk around how AI helps in the disability sort of space with, I've got fibro. When you're having fibro fog, when you're unable to communicate well yourself, you can get it as a, it's almost like I went through access to work for myself, which you get like a virtual assistant, and it almost feels like it's your digital virtual assistant sometimes that can do work for you and can sort of take that load a bit. So there's all these sort of positives behind it, and
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful for it.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. And I find it really good for like helping me like structure my thoughts.
Yeah.
Because I'm not diagnosed ADHD, but I'd be 99.9% certain that I am. And so I have like a gazillion things going on in my head, and, uh, you know, um, corralling them into structured thoughts can take a very long time manually. And I find AI is absolutely fantastic for helping me to like stay on track and get those thoughts structured and out on paper really, really fast.
Yeah, 100%. So, thinking about the audience, sort of, we've got a lot of STEM business owners that they've got, you know, they're like us. We own our own businesses. It's we don't have much time, and they're time strapped. They probably similar to us. Sometimes they struggle to organize their thoughts, and they're sort of juggling all these sort of 50 hats all the time. Where
Hmm.
do you think this sort of AI can make the biggest impact? I know you're sort of in marketing, and I know that from working with a lot of STEM founders, that tends to be a big area they struggle with. So I feel like, personally, that might be an area that is big for them.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, the tricky thing with answering a question like this is like there was a paper a couple of years ago, and the paper was titled, I think it was GPTs are GPTs. So it's uh, generative pre-trained transformers. So that's what the GPT and ChatGPT stands for. And their point was that generative pre-trained transformers are general purpose technologies. So in other words, anyone can use it for pretty much anything. And nobody knows your business like you do yourself. And so nobody can really tell you, like, what you should use AI for. And this is a
Yeah.
little bit of the tricky bit, is that there is time involved in starting to figure this out. But
Mm.
what I would say is, like, yes, my background is marketing and content creation, and that's somewhere that it can absolutely help with. But what I would do is, just start to look at any repetitive tasks in your business, and then asking, like, how could AI help with this, and experimenting with how it could help. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it really is a case of, and sometimes you need guidance with that. You need a little bit of help, just to experiment, like where to start with experiments, what types of experiments you could try, and what
Mm.
tools to use. But I would say anything that is language based and repetitive, just start experimenting with it with ChatGPT. And then my next step would be, as you know, I am obsessed with custom GPTs, and I can't figure out, like, why more people aren't using them.
Yeah.
And then that would be the next step, would be identify the repetitive tasks, see if ChatGPT can help with them, and then if it can, build a custom GPT so that you have a more consistent, more efficient way of dealing with that task within ChatGPT.
Joe, it's funny because when you sort of told me that you were obsessed with sort of the custom GPTs, I started thinking about like how I might be able to do them. For example, when I have a podcast guest, there's a form you fill out. I know a lot about you because I invite people. I was thinking, well, how could I maybe do a custom one for those to try and work out maybe what topics we might talk about or something. So yeah, I was thinking about, because that's something I do quite regularly. It's like you said, a repeating thing, and I kind of have to put information in about what the person's
Hmm.
put in the form, maybe their LinkedIn profile or their website, to tell the chat gpt what it does. Is that the sort of thing that I could automate, and pop into a custom gp, and then it would sort of give me the answers that I need?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So you within a custom GPT, you have different capabilities, and search is one of the capabilities that you can have turned on. So you could build a GPT that went and searched the guest, and um, then once it brings back the information, you can have your instructions for the GPT walk through step by step exactly how you like to research the person, and exactly what are the key points that you want to pull out. And so obviously you can do all this in ChatGPT, but the issue is you're probably going to be thinking, right, how did I prompt this the last time? What did I say? These results don't seem to be as good. Did I word this differently the last time? I'll go and look for that old chat. I'll find that old chat, and I'll find the prompts
That's what
from
I
that.
do.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So instead of that, you can literally just, like, pop the person's name. You don't even need a prompt. You just pop the person's name in your custom GPT, and the instructions in the back end are like the prompt that are the engine for the GPT. So the instructions that you've built will automatically take the name, go off and search, and then come back and say, this is the information about this person structured exactly as you like it. And then, your GPT can also have like steps built in. So a prompt, like a structured prompt, can have multiple steps within it. So you can literally say, step one, go and search for the person. You might say, make sure you look to see if they have a blog, make sure to see if they post on LinkedIn regularly. And then step two might be, now tell me, what are the key areas of interest or focus for this person? What's their job title? What's their, whatever it might be. And then the next step might be, give me a list of questions that would elicit the most interesting responses from this guest.
Fantastic. And can you share these sort of custom GPTs with your colleagues? So if you've all got the same repetitive task, can you all use it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it just depends on your ChatGPT setup. So if you have ChatGPT teams, you can have like shared GPTs. But even if you're just using a Plus account, you can publish your GPTs so that they are available to anyone with the link. And then you can share the link with people to use the GPTs. You can also create GPTs and publish them openly and publicly so that they're like searchable and findable on the GPT store within ChatGPT. And to do that, you just need to do an extra little step of putting in your builder profile and verifying your domain. So I have a couple on the GPT store. Like I have one that strengthens people's LinkedIn posts for them in a way that will support their business goals.
Yeah, fantastic. And people can just find that. So if anyone's listening, they can pop on and find it. Is it under your name, is it?
It's if you search for LI Post Improver, that should find it.
Fantastic. That sounds a really good one because I know, a lot of the STEM founders that are what listening to this podcast are, maybe quite technical, so might write in quite a technical language. So, I was speaking to one the other day, and he was saying, I write a lot of technical papers, and when I start writing a LinkedIn post, it sounds like a technical paper. So, I think something like that would be really helpful.
I mean, perfect use for a custom GPT. Just set up a custom GPT and just say, exactly that. I tend to write in a very technical manner. Help me break this down into plain English for the average reader. And then, write your post, pop it in, get a plain English version back, tweak it. Because again, I still think despite all the promises of AGI and all the promises of what AI can do, I still 100% believe you have to assess, verify, curate, and edit everything out of an LLM.
Yeah, absolutely. And things like, for example, the more sort of advanced things with Chat GPT, can custom GPTs do those as well? So, for example, we were looking at an Excel spreadsheet the other day, and we'd uploaded it, and the way that it's formatted is really frustrating because what it has is the company details, and then on the same line, it has every single employee so it goes in sort of columns of sort of name, sort of job title, email. And what we wanted to do is create a mailing list for them. So, for example, to put in MailChimp. So what you need is each individual person on separate levels. So we were trying to get GPT to coax it into creating a new Excel file, pulling all these details out. So can you still do stuff like that in there? And sort of, what about image
Absolutely.
creation, such as DALI stuff? Can that all be in there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the capabilities that it has are image generation, um, the code interpreter, which would be you'd need to turn on code interpreter in order to work with spreadsheets.
Mm.
Oh no, I've forgotten what are the other capabilities. Canvas is another capability. Where you can work collaboratively on content with ChatGPT, so you can actually make edits, or you can select lines and say, "Let's make this line better." That kind of thing. You can turn Canvas on as well. There's another capability that I'm completely forgetting right now. It slipped my mind.
Fantastic.
But again, for your spreadsheet one, you could build a custom GPT um, figure out like what prompt worked for you in the end in your process, and then build a
Mm.
GPT that all you have to do is just like upload the Excel file. You don't have to prompt, you just upload the Excel file and boom, it brings back the results that you wanted.
And why don't you think people use custom GTPs? Do you think it's just that people don't know how to use them or how to do them? Are there any good
Hmm.
resources maybe they need to go to?
Yeah, I was, this does puzzle me why people don't use custom GPTs. And I was thinking about it. And I think, one reason is that I think OpenAI, for whatever reason, have done an absolutely horrible job of marketing them. I don't know why. Absolutely terrible. Second reason is they OpenAI made a big deal of the fact that you can chat with ChatGPT to build your custom GPT. So when you go into create to build a GPT, quite often you're brought into this thing called the Create tab, and there you can say, you can type in, oh, I want to build a GPT to do this with Excel spreadsheets. The problem is, in my experience, that Create tab is a nightmare. It is awful. So if you're just having a bit of
Right.
fun and you're just building something that's silly and I don't know, just something really trivial, yeah, fine. It's interesting to see that it can build a GPT. If you're trying to do something really useful for your business, such as working with Excel spreadsheets, that Create tab is a nightmare. And what happens is when you ask it to amend it to try to make it work the way you want it to, it'll frequently just break everything. Like it's just a terrible, terrible, terrible job. So a lot of people try building a GPT, they take OpenAI at their word, they use the Create tab, it's a total failure, and they say these things are useless. And all you have to do is go into the Configure tab when you're building one and manually configure it. And that way you're in control, you set everything up the way you want it to, and ChatGPT doesn't mess up your instructions trying to interpret for you. And the other thing is that I think the value of GPTs isn't obvious until you build one. So I'll give you an example, right? My first ever GPT was to write summaries of my emails. I call it my TLDR bot. So TLDR is, too long, didn't read. So I wanted a little summary at the top of an email that said exactly what was in the email. And like we were just saying, I was just constantly prompting for it in ChatGPT, and then I went, you know what? I need to build a custom GPT for this, so that I'm not constantly prompting and I'm not constantly trying to remember what the exact prompt I used the last time was. So I built a custom GPT, but what surprised me was the amount of time that it ended up saving. Like it's a tiny thing, but all that faffing about with the prompting was eating a lot more time than I realized, and eating
Mm.
a lot more mental capacity than I realized. So I think, yeah, when you build your first GPT and you realize, oh, actually, this is so much easier than the back and forth that I've been doing, but that's not obvious until you just try it.
I think sometimes, with ChatGPT and other AI programs, it's almost that decision paralysis, or like they can do most things. The amount of things they can do is quite wide, and it is, like you said, you need to go back to your processes and work out what you need help with, and sort of do a bit of a process analysis, because it's I try to sort of sometimes give people examples of what they can do with AI. I'm like, we can kind of do anything. You could you could do anything, but that's too wide for a lot of people. When you say someone, I can do anything, but what anything? Where? It
Yeah,
is maybe too big. And what I found now is I'll give people like 5 examples, and they might not need those exact 5 examples, but they're like,
yeah,
so you did that with a spreadsheet. I've got a spreadsheet. I need to do something different, but now I work out. Do you think, that's probably, you were talking about their marketing? It they've marketed it too wide in many ways. It can do everything, but actually, it reminds me there was this story about a company that did bug spray, and I think it was an American company, and they what they did is they created this bug spray that killed like 20 different bugs. And they are, this is the future, it's brilliant, because it kills, like, people just need one can, they could kill everything. absolutely bombed. So what they did is they started selling it in different cans. This is an ant killer. This is a wasp killer. But it was the
Yeah.
same thing in every can. But because when people have got ants, they want something that kills ants, and if they've got wasps,
Yeah.
they want something that kills wasps. And I wonder if that's a similar problem to what their OpenAI are having.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I remember, I know I've read about this as well with with painkillers like paracetamol or Anodin. Like they'll
Yeah.
frequently have things like for headaches, for this, for sore throats. For it's exactly the same thing, but people want to think they have the specific solution. So yeah, I think you're right, and I think I would just my advice would be just like start simple, like start really simple with the simplest possible things that you can think of that ChatGPT is good at. Like for me, it was the summary, writing the summaries. Um, but over time, then, like if you start simple and just start building custom GPTs to do tasks that you do regularly that ChatGPT is good at, then you can just start thinking about what are some of the larger tasks that it might be able to do. So there are I think there are kind of three steps that I tell people to take. The first is start simple. Just do something really, really obvious, a prompt that you use all the time or something
Mm.
that you're always prompting for, and use a custom GPT as a saved prompt. It's the simplest possible use of a custom GPT, but it'll get you used to using the interface. And like I said, sometimes a simple time saving like that is actually really valuable. Then you want to build complexity. So next you want to look at something that has multiple steps and start getting used to writing prompts that are like step one, do this, step two, do this, step three, do this. Like we talked about with the guest research. So step one, research the guest. Step two, pull out the most pertinent points. And step three, generate a list of questions, that kind of thing. And they can get relatively complex, but there reaches a point where it's too big a job for a single custom GPT. And then that's
Mm.
where you can build systems and you can actually have multiple GPTs, each one doing a very specific part of a task, but all coming together to do a much bigger job than you might think was possible.
Mm.
So in my case, for example, it would be I've built a suite of 8 GPTs that will craft a persuasive sales page. Now, if you'd asked me, can ChatGPT write a persuasive sales page? I would have said, yeah, I don't know. It's probably too big a job. It's probably, but when you break it down into all of
Mm.
the single components that go into a sales page, and when you prime it with all of the information that's in your head about the offer, it can absolutely do it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I find that when I've had to prompt it, I've had to do multiple steps. So it makes sense to do this. I remember there was a company that I was doing some work for, and it was small businesses, and they had these products, and they were consumer facing products, and I'd put them into Chat GPT, because the people that sold the products were small businesses, and they really liked how they talked about something. And I found this was a really good use of AI, because when I can reflect people's languages quite well when I write. I'm an ex copywriter, but actually AI can do this really well as well. So I what I'd do is I'd transcribe a video recording, and I'd put it in, and then they'd filled out a Q&A for me, and they'd put it in, and so I'd get Chat GPT to learn how they spoke, and then I'm now picturing how this could be custom ones, and then I would input a little bit of information that I wanted to tell it about this
Mm.
product and service. And then the next stage was that I would give it a layout of what I wanted the page. So it was like title 50 characters, feature 30 characters, feature characters,
Mm.
and all this sort of things, and then technical spec, and then this and that. And what it would do is it would lay out the page for me, and then I would get it. The next stage is I'd get it to write some interesting headlines for me that I might want to use through the page. So now I'm thinking how I might be able to chain these things
Exactly.
together, um, to do a flow, a bit like your sales page, because these were sort of sales pages. So it's really interesting thinking about that flow and how I would normally use ChatGPT. And I think, do you think sort of people that are new to ChatGPT, that don't prompt in multiple steps, do you think that's a way to practice before they create a custom one? So I know
Yeah.
a few people I speak to, write me a blog on accountancy. And I feel like that's the equivalent of going to a logo designer, create me a logo with no context. So
Yeah,
is
yeah,
it worth people learning how to prompt well before they start this sort of custom level of creation, so that
yeah,
they've got those sort of, they kind of understand the steps they need, sort of almost like a practice stage?
yeah. Yes, but also I wouldn't sweat it too much, as in, so there's a couple of things you can do. One is, so let's say, as you say, right, oh, work with ChatGPT, work through the process as you would normally, like
Mm.
just kind of like prompting it iteratively until you get to where you want to be. Then copy all that text into a document or into a new chat and just say, help me build a custom GPT, like help me build a structured prompt that would go into a custom GPT, based on this process that I've just been through. So there you go. Like magic, you have a really
I
like
love
solid
that.
starting point at least. So I'll frequently do this where like I will write the first draft of the instructions for a custom GPT, then I'll test it, and it doesn't work quite as I expected. And I'll just grab my first draft, pop it into a new ChatGPT chat, and say, "Look, these are my instructions. This is where the output is going wrong. Can you help me restructure these instructions so that it works properly?" And it's not foolproof, but it knocks it out of the park a lot of the time.
That's really good, isn't it? I often forget as well that ChatGPT can help me with ChatGPT. I've started
Yeah,
doing things like I'll prompt it for a blog post, and I'll say to it, it might be that I've transcribed a recording, so I'll give him the transcript, and I'll say, this is the sort of, I want to write 2 blog posts out of this. Give me some titles and stuff. And I've started asking it, what other information would you like to be able to complete this accurately? And it comes out with some brilliant questions, and then you just answer them, and actually the quality of the posts. And I often forget you can ask ChatGPT, to how to prompt it, what it needs, rather than just trying to guess all the time. It's almost like your own learning engine. It was funny because someone said the other day they were thinking about taking a course. I can't remember what it was on. I think it might have been a marketing course. And what they end up doing is just going to chat GPT and saying, if I wanted to know X, Y, and Z, what should I learn? And then it asked it to do every stage of what it thinks they should learn. And they went, and basically it was a course online. And it's
yeah,
absolutely fascinating, isn't
yeah.
it? I think it's brilliant.
It's incredible. It really is incredible. Yeah. Here's another little uh, tip as well. So when you were talking about your product descriptions, and that
Mm.
the client was able to talk about the products, but the product descriptions they had were poor. You can build a custom GPT with the questions that you would ask, in order to get them talking about the product. And then within the custom GPT, instruct it to ask the user to turn on voice mode.
Yeah.
So then you can, and then say to them, I personally find doing it on the phone is really good because we're so used to just chatting with our phone. It's really informal. So use the phone, open up that custom GPT. This, like, the client uses their phone, opens up the custom GPT, turns on voice mode, and is interviewed in voice mode by AI to get all the details that it needs to write the product descriptions. Because sometimes we're just so much better at like chatting away informally. Whereas if we sit down and try and like answer questions, type them out, we think it has to be in a certain voice, or we think it has to
Mm.
be structured in a certain way. ChatGPT is brilliant at taking the totally like unstructured ramblings that we can just do off the cuff and turning that into really good structured information.
And I think that's, for people like of my age, where we used to, when we used to Google search like 20 odd years ago, and it was very structured, and you had to use sort of quite formal language, or think about your prompting. It's interesting, sort of like how search engines and then AI is, it's this natural language, isn't it? I mean, it understands my
Mm,
ramblings, and I do the voice quite a lot on my phone.
right.
I find it absolutely fabulous. If there's something I need to download from my brain, to structure it or to do something with it, I will talk at it for 10 minutes sometimes, and it
Yeah.
just understands what I'm talking about. I mean, even if you get a spelling mistake in your prompt, it knows what you're trying to say. And I think this is, I know I see a lot of people worried about their prompting and, oh, I need to say this. Oh, do I say it that way? And I'm like, just talk at it and tell it what
Yeah.
you want, and then ask it if it needs any more information, and it will tell you.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was a lot of talk. You don't hear it quite so much anymore, but I mean, there was a lot of talk when ChatGPT launched about like prompt engineering. And, yeah, prompt engineering is great if you're trying to do really, really structured automation and something that is, consistent. But for most entrepreneurs, you just need to know how to clearly communicate. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all it requires.
And I think, it's funny because I'm going to admit that I don't have a custom GPT. So this is disgraceful. But I'm teaching a course at the moment, which is a 12-week marketing course. And and I've mentioned it to you, Frank, that one of the sort of sessions is around creating a pillar piece of content, which is either a sort of 20-30 minute video or a podcast like we're doing now, or it's a really long blog or a white paper, something like that. And it's creating one once a month, and it's for small businesses. So they create one piece of content and then they break it out into about 30 odd pieces of content. So they can do their whole content pretty much for the week, for the month, out of one piece. And the idea is that we take the video, we transcribe it. Does ChatGPT, can you transcribe video? Because I normally use Otter AI.
Oh, that's a good question because I think you can do it maybe via the API. I don't know if you can do it directly in ChatGPT. I use
I'll have
Descript.
to,
That's the tool. That's the tool that I
yeah, I
use
love
for all my
Descript.
transcription.
So yeah, if you can't do it in that, you might need a bit different software to transcribe it. So Descript or Otter AI, or I've got a couple of different ones, but I've got Caption Ed as well. And then so I'm just thinking like how I could do this sort of custom GPT to go along with my course, which is you upload your transcript and then it comes up with 3 blog ideas, 10 social post ideas, ideas for images that you could use, and sort of all these stages, so that at the end of the
Mm.
GPT, maybe I have a string of them, one for the images, one for the social post, one for the blog, etc., and then string them together. And so you pop your transcript in the beginning, and out the end comes all this social content in a nice draft format that you can then tweak to your heart's content. So you've got me really inspired to try and do this, because I work with a lot of small businesses, particularly STEM businesses, and it is really hard at running a business. You don't have time for everything. You have to be accountant, you have to be
Yeah.
marketer, you have to be sales, plus you've got to actually build the thing that you're creating. And it's incredibly hard. And I'm always looking for ways that people can save time. And I think this is one of those ways that really implore people to have a look at, because saving time and all those manual tasks, particularly, that people hate doing, sounds brilliant. And particularly marketing, I know all the STEM entrepreneurs listening, all you founders, you don't like marketing, so there might be some nice tips here. If I get my chain GPT custom GPTs done, I'll share them public so that people can pop their pillar piece of content in one end and out the other. So I'll set that as a task for myself, because using it for all this sort of stuff that people really dislike, I think we kind of try and force people to be different things, but actually maybe AI is a way of people embracing that actually they really like the thing they do and want to do the thing they do, and they can outsource to AI some of the rest of the tasks, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and yeah, so you can outsource some of the tasks, and also you can use it to um, just be more efficient at the tasks, so that they're not such a slog, and so that they're not
Mm,
that they're not something that you absolutely hate. I mean, a bit like we talked about earlier with the creativity and everything. I would be loath for people to completely forget how to write, for example. So I try and strike a balance between
mm,
using AI to create my content and actually writing in my own unique
mm,
voice, and helping it. So a lot of the time I will use it to help me improve quickly, as opposed to just letting it write everything.
Yeah, I think that's a really good balance, isn't it? I know that the guys at AI, when I saw that, was it the last sort of big uh, presentation they did, and they said it's sort of it works with people. It's not on its own. It's not, it's not the T1000 Terminator that sort of works on its own. It is a collaborative tool
Mm.
that needs human input, and it needs, and it can help you, but it's not this beast on its own that can just go off and control everything. It's sort of that
And I,
taking that weight off you. And do you, with
and
sort
it's,
of,
I
we
think,
talked a lot about Chat GPT. Oh, sorry.
no, I'm just going to say, I think it's important as well to like do an analysis of like what content you need to show up in, like what content. So if you're a founder, I would hope you're building your personal brand. And so the content that you say post on LinkedIn should be your authentic voice. And you can get
Mm,
ChatGPT to help with it and make it more efficient and speed it up and brainstorm and everything and polish. But your authentic voice really, really needs to be present. Product descriptions. Your authentic voice does not really need to be present in a product description as long as your ideas about the product are present. So perfect example of like, yeah, you can just let it write those and just verify, assess, curate and edit, but it can essentially write them all. So for me, for example, I 100% let AI write my YouTube descriptions for our podcast.
mm,
And because it's working from the transcript of the podcast, it can kind of get the tone and the voice and the ideas and everything. But I don't think anybody sits around like reading YouTube descriptions to
mm.
really like get a sense of who I am. So, I'm in the podcast, I'm there, I'm present there. The YouTube descriptions ChatGPT can take care of. So I think it's, figuring out like what are the places where I really need to be present and what are the places that AI can really do 90% of the heavy lifting.
No, 100%. That's exactly the same way I use it. So, for example, my social posts, sometimes I'll ask it like to grammatically check, because I've got get a lot of fibro fog. Sometimes my brain completely goes to mush. So I'll get, yeah, is there any really glaring sort of grammatical errors here, or what have I done does this sound like nonsense? Sometimes I just ask it. Most of the time it's fine, but occasionally it'll pick up the odd thing that is hilarious, and I'm like, I can't, my brain clearly went to mush whilst I was writing that sentence. But things like, my social posts, everyone always says they really like how I speak and they sound like me, which is really nice. Although I have tried a couple and I've put in loads of information and they have sounded surprisingly like me, which is quite scary. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I could have written that. It's got my tone, it's got my, my
Mm.
um
I was giving
my
I
my
was giving a workshop.
style. Mm?
Sorry, I think there's a slight delay. I was giving a workshop yesterday and I was asked like how do you get ChatGPT to sound less like AI, because the person in the workshop felt like they were recognizing ChatGPT content everywhere or AI content everywhere. And I was saying like, one, give it a list of banned words. So just Google like what words does AI overuse and give it a list of banned words that it's not to use. Two,
Yeah.
like give it the definition of your voice. And if you don't know what that is, just give it a bunch of your writing and ask it to define your voice. And then three, give it as much of your own writing as possible. So today on LinkedIn, I did a post and I was transparent at the bottom of the post, but I actually last night I just said to ChatGPT, I was on a workshop today, I was asked this question, here was my answer, write a LinkedIn post for me, but here's a document with years worth of LinkedIn posts from me. It was like 45,000 words because I write everything in Google Drive first. So I have a record of all that content.
Oh
And
wow.
it wrote a post in my voice. So it's, it said things like, it would never say things like, grab a bunch of your content. That's not what ChatGPT is going to normally say. But because it had my 45,000 words, it used phrases like grab a bunch of your content and give it to and at the end it said, if you want to know more, just shout. That's not something that ChatGPT would normally say. It's something that I say. So there,
Exactly. Do
so
you know
there.
what? Mine contains lots of biscuit jokes. and it's totally picked up on my type, my style and my humor. And it's sort of like grab a biscuit, and dunk it. It's really quite good. I mean, it's actually I actually think it's better at jokes than I am. So I'm not very good anyway. But AI's overtaken me on the pun stage, so that's quite sad, isn't it?
Brilliant.
So, we've talked a lot about ChatGPT. What are there any other tools that you use with it that really help? Like I've mentioned that you sort of use Otter AI or transcription programs. We talked about Descript.
Mm.
It's great for video editing and things like that. What sort of alongside ChatGPT, what sort of other software do you use? I know you like quite a lot of video software. Which was
Mm.
the image one that you used the other day, which turned you into a bald Frank? Um,
That was the new image generator in O, and it is amazing. I mean, it is so good. So, we were talking earlier about when I was in art college, and I never found my medium, and I did all these like quick scribbly cartoons. I am obsessed with the image generator in 4.0 now, and the first for some reason those cartoons came to my mind, and I started recreating them with ChatGPT 4.0, and it is unbelievable. Like it will create a 4 panel cartoon with speech bubbles and text, and in the style that I want. Absolutely incredible, just unbelievable. So yeah, that one where I gave it a photograph of myself and I said, "Give me a mohawk," and it did. So yeah, I love image generators. I've been obsessed with Midjourney for a long time. I think Ideogram is another image generator that I love, and I love it because it's really good at prompt coherence. So in other words,
mm,
it's really good at interpreting what you want. Midjourney, I find with Midjourney you have to be quite precise. Ideogram has this thing that they call magic prompt, where it looks at the prompt you gave it and it writes a new prompt interpreting what it thinks you want and how the system will create an image for that. It's also great at generating text, which Midjourney struggles a bit with. And if you have one of the, I can't remember which plan, but if you have a paid Ideogram account, you can actually give it your brand colors and generate all of your images based on your brand colors, which is really, really powerful. It's a very,
wow.
very cool feature. And then I'll often use Kling, which is an AI video generator. So again, I'm just having a little bit of fun at the moment on LinkedIn. So I will generate crazy images, then I'll bring them into Kling and I'll turn them into crazy videos, and I'll just do these little like 5-10 second little clips of crazy things that are totally unrelated to the content, but are fun and are attention grabbing.
I think that it's
As we
about having
discussed,
fun with it, isn't it? And trying things
hmm,
out. It is
yeah,
that sort of fun side. I remember when we started, playing with it because you got me into Mid Journey. And for anyone that's listening, Frank and I co-authored a book with our Rise group, which is run by Mark Schaefer, and you did the image for the front cover of the book in AI because we were a very futurist sort of a group of people, and that was really nice having this sort of, it felt like a symbol of the company, didn't it, of the people,
yeah,
because you'd sort of done this generated image that was this lovely big explosion that kind of expressed what the it's called the most amazing marketing book ever. Was because it was all
I
these
think
like
my favorite.
36 people that had wrote this book together, and I loved that was when I started getting into the image generation, and that's good couple of years ago now. And since then it's come on in leaps and bounds, hasn't it?
It's incredible, yeah. And the image generator in ChatGPT 4.0 is going to be a game changer because
Mm,
a lot of people are put off by image generators because they don't know how to prompt, or they feel like they need to know artistic styles, they need to be able to describe what they want, etc.
mm.
Because it's now baked into ChatGPT, it can do the interpretation, it can iterate on the images, so you can just get in there, ask for an image, and then say, "Oh, that's not quite what I meant. Could you try it with this? Could you try it with that?" It's absolutely incredible.
Fantastic. And I do recommend any listeners to go and have a look at Frank's your LinkedIn, because it is brilliant. I just love your LinkedIn, just showing all your experiments. You've got your newsletter as well, haven't you? So can they go to your website to sign up to the newsletter, your AI one? Because that is, I find that really valuable.
Absolutely, yeah. It's frankandmarcy.com/AI.
Fantastic. So I really recommend people do that, because I must admit, like Frank, you keep me, I'm always really busy, so I'm not always up to date with AI, and you keep me up to date with AI, which is my you're my go-to for that. And also, you know, I love the fact that you have fun with it. So, you know, the one the other day when you asked it to, was it to remove your glasses? And no, it was to
Oh,
remove your
yeah.
moustache.
I asked Google Gemini Flash 2.0. So
Mm,
Google actually were the first ones to come out with this baked-in image generator that's baked into
mm.
the LLM. They were the first ones to come out with it. So I experimented with that and I asked it to remove my mustache, and it removed my mustache, quite cool, but it also removed my glasses for some reason. So I said, "Why did you remove my glasses?" It said, "Oh, I'm really sorry about that. You're right. I'm going to generate another image with your mustache removed and your glasses still in place." And it came back. My glasses were still gone. My mustache was still gone. And so was most of my hair. I said, "What are you doing?" And it said, "You're right. What am I doing? This was a terrible mistake. There's something weird going on. I'm going to fix it. I'm going to fix it. Let me generate another image for you. This time with your glasses on, your mustache gone, and nothing else changed." And it came back and it had now removed all of my hair. My glasses were gone. The mustache was gone. I was like, okay, forget it. Forget it. I'm done.
It was absolutely, it was, I mean, the more I watched it, the more I laughed. And this is the thing, you know, we talk about AI, and some of it is just still not quite, you know, there are some still huge flaws in it. The other day I was creating, I think it was a workbook for my and I was having real brain fog this day, so I got it to help me create my workbook, and it started going off on different topics and started creating this workbook and nothing related. And I get similar to yours. I was like, I think you might have gone a bit off topic and you've missed some bits there. And then it would reply back, going, "Oh yes, you're right." And it would say, "I filled them in now." And I'm like, "No, you haven't." So, you know, it just completely hallucinated what it had done. So you do have to be careful and you do have to watch it. You know, this is why they say it's collaborative, because it's both. But oh my goodness, I
Yeah.
do recommend everyone goes and has a look at the video that Frank did of you slowly receding on the screen in each picture. Because this is the thing, isn't it? Yeah, people are very, yeah, there's a lot of hate about it and things like that, but oh my goodness, it's hilarious as well, you know. And have that fun with it, you know, make mistakes, do silly things, because it's brilliantly fun. And you know, particularly in these early stages before it completely embeds itself in our lives, this is the time to experiment, isn't it? Have a bit of joy around it.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And as we said, if, for people who are time pressed and have, creative, um, need a creative outlet and haven't had the time to put into that creative outlet, I think have a bit of fun with these tools like the image generators, the video generators, the music generators, and look at them as a creative outlet and see what you can do. And it's not all about business.
I would warn people on Suno though, because not only did I generate the music for creating the curve, but what I also did is I spent hours creating songs for other people and just having fun with it. And it was a bit like I couldn't stop myself, and I was sending everyone their songs, going, "I've written a song about you." And
This is me at the moment with the 4.0 image generator. I'm currently generating all these pieces of pop art, and I'm finding it very hard to tear myself away from it. I'm like, oh, I could do a piece of pop art with Elvis. Oh, I could do one with James Dean. Oh, I could do one with Marilyn Monroe.
do you think that's because of the immediacy thing? You know, because I have ADHD and I'm very aware of
Mm.
like dopamine levels and things like that. And they say that, you know, stuff that gives you a hit. So things like social media is very bad for dopamine because it spikes it and then it crashes down. And I'm wondering actually if we should consider AI in this as well. Gives you that dopamine hit. I've got something. It's really exciting. Potentially that's why we
Yeah,
can't, you know, you can't tear yourself away from them. I'm thinking that might be my problem.
there's a little bit of that, and you might be able to relate to this as well. Like when I'm always obsessed with image generators anyway. But when you generate something, like if you were using ChatGPT to generate images previously with DALL-E, you'd ask it, and then it would come back, and boom, the image would appear. with the new 4.0 generator, it puts like a placeholder of the image into the chat. And then very, very slowly from the very top, the image starts to appear from the top down to the bottom. And I find myself just sitting there watching it going, oh my God, the top of it is brilliant. Is the next bit going to be good? Oh, it is. It is. Oh, fantastic. Oh no, it's messed up the hand. Oh no, I'm going to have to do another one.
It's like a strip tease, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Strip tease. I love that. So I feel like the moral of this story is AI is amazing. Go and use it, but don't get obsessed with it like me and and
Yeah,
spend hours
yeah, yeah.
hours on
You
it. I think
can you can use it productively, efficiently, and strategically. You don't have to get obsessed with having fun with it like I am and wasting hours creating pop art images of Elvis.
do you know what I think going back to your first point, work out your problems, work out, where those things are, and that way you'll be much more focused. And that was a
100%.
really good point you first made on today's show. Work out those problems, write them down in front of you, and then go on them specifically to solve that problem. And then hopefully you won't get sucked down the rabbit hole that we do.
This is it. Yeah.
So I think that's a fantastic. This has been so fantastic for me because I haven't had a custom GPT yet, and I'm hoping the audience have got as much out of this as me. I'm really inspired to go and create one now. So that's going to be my job today, to start exploring and creating one. And I've got sort of like a concept of what I want to do, one for the podcast, a simple one, then looking at chaining them for potentially STEM entrepreneurs that want to take this pillar content and break it up. So, you've given me a couple of focuses today. So I'm hoping the listeners will be able to start going away and creating them. If anyone wants to get in contact with you though, what's the best way to get hold of you? What methods do you like?
LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn. It's my main platform. So connect me on LinkedIn, send me a message. Or if you're not a LinkedIn person, just go to frankandmarcy.com and pop an email to us.
Fantastic. And I will put links to both in the show notes as well. So you can just click on them to make life easier. Thank you, Frank, so much for today. I feel very inspired. We're all going to have hundreds of custom GPTs now, and I'm proudly going to show you mine once I finally finish it,
Please
and
do.
see if
Please
I can
do.
get your input on it.
Thank you
Fantastic. So
so much.
thanks so
This has
much for
been,
coming.
thank you. It has been so much fun. Really, really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. And thank you to the audience for listening. And I shall see you next week.